What's up with it? Kill 'em all cool back in this thing. Been a minute. Been a minute since I've done one of these. It's a book review. All right. Pretty dope book. All right. Robin Williams is, famously known within the acting community, even the play community. One thing about him is when I was growing up, I watched the movie Jumanji. And there was a bunch of other ones like Good Will Hunting and some other like stuff I feel like I saw growing up, but you just might have forgotten, especially if you're my age. Like I'm 33. I was born in the late 80s, 89. And I'm like, I'm not like a young tyke anymore, but I am like a little bit older, and he was old to me. So he died in 2014, 1951. This book was written by Emily Herbert. Now, if you're watching this, you're probably like, hey, is this book any good? Yes, if you don't know much about him. Now, this isn't something that's coming from his words, so it's not nothing that was written like, it had some things that he said, possibly quoted, there's things like that, but it was nothing like him writing his own, piece. So with that being said, fire little book. If you have not checked out his lifestyle, you don't know much about him. If you're a little bit younger than 33, I think it's a solid read, especially if you're interested in the guy. So just a quick rundown. Started off, had like a background in plays, stuff like that. I always call it like Romeo and Juliet type stuff. But yeah, that was his thing. He met Christopher Reeves. Now, Christopher Reeves is another one of those guys who is like, it's older to me, but I heard about it. He was like a big time actor. I think the dude played Superman back in the day, like one of the original Supermans. And he goes on a horse riding trip, falls off and breaks his neck. And the thing that, I took from this book was also like the loyalty of Robin Williams, like how he still became like he was already friends with, Christopher Reeves. But after that incident, he became even closer to him. And it's like his brother. And, he looked out for him. Christopher Reeves was paralyzed from the neck down, if you guys didn't know that, after that horse riding incident. But I thought it really just captured like how great of a person Robin Williams is. He was a very wealthy man. He had lots of quotes on divorce and how, they take half of what he has. And they said it later on in his life, like he was doing a lot of stuff for just money, which I thought was interesting because, they said he was worth like over 100 million. And then after divorce, 50 million. And he continued to still get married. But they said, he focused a lot, especially in his later life, about money. Like he was stressing about money. And it's so interesting because, even in 2014, 50 million is, way more than what it is in even, just back in the day. But, look, I feel like you're never happy. I heard a quote when I was young is like, how much money is enough? And just a little bit more. Like you're never quite happy. And I found that so interesting just because, and I've heard this, but, when you think of certain actors like Robin Williams, he's like the top of the top. He could have got anything he wanted. He did incredible things. You know what I mean? Jumanji is still one of my favorites, and you look back and you're just like, man, you're still not happy with money. Like you're still stressing about money. Just like maybe there was a yacht you wanted to buy or another property or a bigger house. And I don't know, as a guy who's in over 60 films throughout his life, I just thought that was so intriguing for me to just kind of look back and be like, man, you just never happy. Not like in a bad way, but like, and this is well documented. Went through depression, heavy drug use. So he battled with that. He got into a second marriage and took about 10 years off of drugs, then went back into that. He had a huge lust in women, like most men do, which was a problem in his life. One of his wives even was almost not necessarily cool with it, but she knew that was his thing, but she necessarily didn't, I guess, police it roughly as she could. Some of the things that helped him lean off of this drug use and depression was cycling. So he used to run a lot as well. I run heavily now. So, I used to, I don't know where my things went. My marathon, I forgot where I put them in. My marathon medals. But yeah, I ran marathons, and he even said just as he got older, and I hear this a lot too. So I know a lot of people pick up, cycling and swimming and stuff as they get older, as far as like knee and joint pain. But I just love that. That was something that really connected with me in this book because I had no clue about it. Another thing, though, I found out about him was he loved video games. And this was before video games is what it is now. Like how I have this whole streaming setup. He already kind of had this, and he was one of those guys who would come in with the alias and kind of talk shit. Who knows what he's saying? Because, chat rooms back in the day are a lot more violent than even they are now, especially if you play video games. But he loved first person shooters, Call of Duty. He said he loved Call of Duty. oh, if he could see the 2019 pandemic Call of Duty, oh, he probably wouldn't have left his house. One thing I know about video games is they say it adds on to the depression that you already have, and it kind of keeps you in a rut, and it keeps you kind of in a place where it's tough to get out of. And, you know, coming out of the quarantine, like where I started playing video games again, bought all this streaming work and, you know, fell in love with the Call of Duty game. And I get it. Like, I can understand how over time being engulfed and sitting in front of a screen and like this, you know, amusement you get from, you know, a win or just from video games. It's odd, but man, it's like, it's so refreshing and relieving, but at the same time, it can kind of drive you in like a weird depression place where you just kind of get stuck there and you can't get out. And I guess that's maybe where cycling is. And for me, I picked up running, and, you know, and I kind of get that from Robin Williams, but he also did other drugs and stuff. But the big background in theater was super cool to me. His relationship with Christopher Reeves, you know, it was impeccable. I mean, just maintaining his loyalty with him after his incident on that horse riding excursion, man, and being paralyzed from the neck down, and being his brother and looking out for him, paying a lot of his medical bills. They said he was very philanthropic. Like, he used to pay for a lot of stuff, donate to charities. And I don't know. One thing, you know, that bit him in the butt is what it does for most men, and it's that lust in women, man. And it's just interesting to see the more money people get, and it doesn't even matter almost who they are. It happens to everybody. The main thing that I took kind of early in the book that really it hit home, because I listen to Joe Rogan, and maybe a lot of you guys maybe even paying attention to this now listen to Joe Rogan. And he has this thing, and he talks about comedy because, you know, he used to do stand up. That was a lot of Robin Williams things as well. Stand up comedy and the onset. And, you know, I hear Joe Rogan talk about this all the time about the importance of going up and practicing material. And you can't just go up and do one stand up and be good and record it. And you got to do it and work through your jokes and build on it and add little tidbits. He was a joke stealer. Robin Williams was. And his belief was, hey, I can make the joke and I could tweak it to my liking or my thing and make it my thing off the idea of your joke, which makes sense because I feel like that's what happens in a lot of writers' rooms in Hollywood and stuff of that sort. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. If you ask a comedian, joke stealing is taboo. It's a no, you don't do it. But if somebody can take an idea and blow it up and make it bigger, it's like what Jay-Z said, you made it a hot line, I made it a hot song. I can add on to that. So who is really at fault if he's making it better? And maybe he's not making it better. Maybe it's just in his eyes. But the joke stealing was, I don't know. It was just a big thing. And I would honestly, if I ever sat in front of Joe Rogan, I'd bring that up. I'd say, hey, how do you feel about Robin Williams? I heard he was a joke stealer. And, you know, because there's this big thing with Joe Rogan about how he confronted a guy, you can YouTube it, confronted a guy who was stealing jokes literally live on his show. And I think this was at the old Laugh Factory or something like that. One of them classic, stand-up comedy jokes where you can go on a Wednesday night and catch some local stand-up. But yeah, man, interesting guy. Very interesting guy. If you watch any of his work, you can tell the passion is there. And love video games. And this is the quote. I have it written down here. Call of Duty calls it cyber cocaine. And that's how I really was feeling throughout that pandemic, and a lot about video games. I have some other things written down, but I hope I touched on the most important parts. I could sit here and talk about, and his mom and his dad. And that's not, I don't think, what people are here for. I think bottom line is what you're here for right now. And if you're still watching is, should I check this book out? Absolutely. If you don't know anything about him, it's an easy read too. You don't have to. I hate where the books and the words are so small and you got to cram and it's hard to read. Easy read, flew through it, knocked that thing out in 4 lunch sittings at work. 4-hour lunches. In about 4 hours, I knocked that thing out. So, check it out, man. Y'all let me know what you think. And please, I hope this helps lead you into the, process of, hey, I'm going to check it out, or I should, or maybe I'm not going to at all. But if you do, please come back and let me know if I was off. Let me know if you loved it, liked it, hated it. I don't know. Kill 'em all cool, man. 1.